Today, on Locked On Phoenix Suns, the lowly Pelicans, resting guys left and right. You know the story. Another Suns loss. But this one ended on a little bit of a different note. We'll dive in next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back in to Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon, Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen post-game on a Thursday night. Don't forget Locked On Suns free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. More from FanDuel later on in the show. Joining me right here from Phoenix Suns Arena, not Footprint Center, used to be Footprint Center.
Yeah.
My fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling, Ben Garcia?
Well, just piggybacking off that really quickly, I guess Footprint Center wasn't the curse. It was just the Suns all along. I know people like to throw that little jinx out there that Game 3 of the NBA Finals, the stadium changes or the arena changes to Footprint Center. It's now Phoenix Suns Arena. I'm sure very soon it'll be United Wholesale Mortgage Arena at some point in the future.
I think it was Jason Kidd wishing Chris Paul happy birthday. That's been the curse that I think really was. That's been my theory. Forget the arena name the whole time.
Chris Paul didn't even turn, I think it was 38 in that series. That was in the Pelicans series he turned 38.
Yeah, well,
because I remember
Jason
as soon
Kidd
as he did that, he fell off a cliff.
Happy birthday CP or whatever, and that was it. Okay.
Yeah.
Final score, 124-116. Zion Williamson closes things out for the Pelicans. First of a back-to-back. And another similar game to the past several in that the Suns offense was rolling decently, but they just have no resistance to anything. So let's zoom in on I'll start us off with a couple of moments in the second and third quarter that I think kind of explain where we're at right now. All right, so second quarter, there was a transition run-out play. I don't remember if it was a Suns turnover or just a missed shot. New Orleans sprints down the court, and if you remember, Book gets back. I believe it was on Trey Murphy or one of their better players. Doesn't stop them, but gets in the way. And that ended up being the play where Ryan Dunn had the big chase down block.
Yeah.
Similar one on the other end, or other end of the court, next quarter, third quarter. Book gets another run-out transition stop and is flexing and yelling and pumping the crowd up after that. Obviously, they lost. So I was going to dump that moment of the game. Those don't matter. They didn't win the game.
Yeah.
Until post-game, Devin Booker was, look, I don't go on the road, and some of those locker room things that Dwayne does can be more just about the game. Guys are trying to get out the door.
Yeah.
Devin Booker knew tonight there's going to be more media. He's probably going to be at the podium. This could be on TV. This can be on YouTube. This can be on, First Take tomorrow morning for all he knows. And I feel like, I don't know if he premeditated it, because if they won, he probably wouldn't have said this. But he went further than I've seen him go all season, being fed up with this situation. The only quote I could find before we hit record was from Dwayne. Book said, sometimes you got to draw the line, and the line should have been drawn a long time ago. He was harping over and over and over about the communication for this team. And he said this before of they hang their heads.
Yep.
When there is a bad moment. He even went out of his way to say, like, the thing that kind of felt different was he said with Zion, we don't want to let him go to his left hand. You got to put bodies between him. And then he went, that's all stuff we all talked about. That was part of the game plan and everybody knew it. And then I asked him a question at one point of, what do you feel like is the difference between this year and last year? We've seen this basically the exact same rotation play defense last year. And he just said, yeah, it's different. And that was his answer. And he, then the last question was from Arizona's Family, Channel 3, Nick over there, Nick King said, do you think about yourself in a moment like this and start to think back through all the things you wish you could have done differently? And he said, yeah, I always start with myself, but I do communicate a lot. So that is a lot. So I'll let you finally talk, but those moments where he made a point of hustling and was trying to be a tone setter, combined with the way that he came out publicly after, I felt like that was a little bit of an inflection point. I don't know what the inflection point will turn into. I'm not trying to go there. I'm just saying this was different.
Yeah, I think that was perfect storytelling by you and going through all those different quotes, but I think it just comes off as very hypocritical from Devin Booker. There was a moment of the game that I was going to get to with a guy that you and I didn't even know existed until tonight. He's a rookie for the New Orleans Pelicans. Hit a 3 later on in this game, but literally the play before that, when you talked about Booker saying hanging their heads, they understand all this stuff, Booker missed, and this will kind of go into, part of a moment for me. Devin Booker misses a 25-foot running pull-up shot. I remember this. And then down the court, it was a lost ball turnover. And then Zion Williamson gets the ball, makes a dunk, pass from whoever it was on the other side, Jordan Hawkins at that one. And you saw Zion as he's dunking the ball and Devin Booker sulking because he lost the ball, head down, like you are part of the problem. And I know everyone got upset with me yesterday for some of my comments on Kevin Durant, and that's fine. I really am over being nice with this team. And so the Devin Booker stuff comes off a little hypocritical with me. I understand he says he always starts with himself and he communicates a lot, but I don't see the communication. Maybe on the floor he's talking to guys, but we've talked about the leadership with this team. It's not just Kevin Durant, it's Devin Booker. And so that's kind of where I go with it, man, where I know you're pissed, but you have to look yourself in the mirror. You are, unfortunately, the leader of this team. You're not the best player, but you're the leader of this team. And hearing those kind of stuff, sometimes you got to draw a line in the sand. That line should have came a long time ago. Yeah, no bleep. It should have came a while ago. It should have came 15 games ago. Now I'm the one filibustering at this point. I want to let you go ahead and dive into what you thought of that. But those are the things that first came to my mind when I hear those things, which once again, we're not even talking about the game specifically at this point. We're talking about something else off the court.
Yeah, but he's not exempt from any of it. Yeah. But honestly, on a night like this, I frankly just have a hard time blaming either one of those two guys. Yeah. I'm just going to be flat out. Every game's different. I'm not trying to make a whole point about the season, but 64 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists. They both shot, basically 50% from the field. Book was a little less efficient with some missed threes. 10 missed threes. Wasn't great. Well, yeah, because he took 16. 6 of 16 is 35% or whatever. That's kind of the season average. They were getting them up today. But I don't think that it feels right tonight to try to point fingers at those guys. I feel like I don't even know if he was pointing fingers at anybody in particular. I'm sure he had people in mind in his head when he said that. Well, who then? I don't think we know. So I think naming guys specifically is obviously something I don't want to see, but he's talking about someone. Yeah. And I don't want to point fingers at who it is. They probably know. But I'm just saying that. Listen, there's something that can be said to, he's not pointing fingers, but he said, but I communicate a lot. So he's immediately not pointing the finger at himself. He's pointing the finger at other players. I don't know who they are, but that's what he's alluding to. That's what he said. But I guess I think there's a limit to what we know. That's the same thing that same thing I've said with Durant forever, where it's I'm willing to agree if guys come out and say, I feel motivated, I feel encouraged, I feel like I learned from KD, while also being able to say that clearly there's something lacking. So I believe that Booker is part of the solution, and I think this is where you and I sometimes differ, where you've kind of gone toward the take at times that kind of Dan Bickley had the other day of the attitude stuff, and just so you can make your point, I haven't gone towards it. I have
believe that take.
Okay, great. So my
believe
question
that.
is, where did we ever see some kind of punch you in the face, grab you by the collar, scream in your face version of Devin Booker? We act like that guy disappeared. I have news for everybody. I love Devin Booker. He was never here. That version of Devin Booker didn't exist. We're just trying to, I feel like, be a little bit revisionist to go back and say that Book lost something because the team sucks. But I think in real time, if you had asked anybody, the leaders of the championship, the finals team, were Monty Williams, Chris Paul, Jay Crowder. Devin Booker was at best fourth on that list. I remember a stretch during the season when he almost won MVP where I made a point and kept writing that point that felt like the most determined. Like, remember that game? I think it was in Minnesota, or I think it was the Clippers, where they put the wrong dude on the screen in the starting lineup. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay. It was down the stretch of that 64-win season.
I'm sure you're right.
They accidentally threw some other face up on the screen, and he like mentioned it post-game. And it was like, you're clearly looking for stuff and motivating yourself, and this is the most like outwardly Michael Jordan-esque or whatever, like Kobe-esque type of stuff that I've ever seen from you. Otherwise, I think he works really hard. I think he does communicate, but I don't think Devin Booker's the dude who's going to come change everybody's life with how he is as a leader. And so I don't see a lot of change. I think it's lacking, but I don't think it ever was there, I guess, is the difference.
I never thought he was Kobe, but he did model his game after Kobe. He's never was Kobe, but I do think he did take on a different mentality in 2021 and 2022. There was a killer mentality to Devin Booker, whether it was in the bubble and the shot against Paul George and Kawhi Leonard.
But we're not talking about on-court killer instincts. He's made plenty of cool shots.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the on-court.
I thought we were talking about communication and leadership.
I think those all things go into it, but you can clearly see it on the court. Like, it is hard for you to go in the locker room and see kind of the differences, but I think that stuff translates from off the court to on the court, and I don't see that player anymore.
But your best example is a shot he made in the bubble?
Oh, no, I've got a couple other ones. I think there is a I just hit a shot, bleep you mentality that I don't think Devin Booker has right now. And I do think, and I do believe, not all, because it has to do with Devin Booker, that he's letting that kind of stuff influence him. I do think some of that does come from Kevin Durant.
So more like attitude might be a better word for what we're talking about.
I think that there's
because that's vague.
I think that I think that there's a too cool for school, for lack of a better term, that comes with Kevin Durant because he's bleeping awesome. The differences between Devin Booker and Kevin Durant is I think Devin Booker sees Kevin Durant as a big brother kind of player, someone that he really looks up to, which is a great thing. And Devin Booker doesn't have some of the same tools, talents, or attributes on the court that Kevin Durant has. So he tries to emulate at times Kevin Durant for better or for worse, and it doesn't translate well. That's what I go to.
I think I understand your point better than I have before. So I think that
I don't think we've ever really dove into it.
Yeah. So that established. Tonight would make me think he's wearing thin on it.
Tonight was the close.
Whatever it is, whether we're right or it's something else, or who it's the fingers pointed at, or what the impetus of it is. Tonight felt to me like whatever it's been like, he's getting really tired of it.
You have had about a half an hour or so, 20 minutes to kind of marinate on that. So maybe I'll think differently.
And you haven't seen the videos?
No, I haven't.
I was in there.
I wasn't. I was doing other things, obviously for the channel and things like that. We just break it up. I've had it for about 5 minutes now. 10 minutes now. That's the closest I've ever been to. Oh my God, is he gonna stay here? Now that's DEFCON 1. I could be emotional.
I think Suns fans, and when you see the clips, I guarantee you people will have that at least in the back of their mind of
the first thing.
What does he mean?
What does he mean?
And I don't know, because he was very careful with his words, but...
and that's another thing, right, to kind of halt me a little bit, because I don't want to be doom and gloom forever, but he did choose his words. He could have said, I'm getting pissed off here, or he could have done, maybe it was just that, but that's the first thing I went to.
And he might not be all the way there yet, right?
No.
He might not, it's not necessarily that he knows what he is thinking and he's like intentionally just not saying it. It could be that he's 3% toward that feeling and he's expressing being 3% toward that feeling, but it was the most negative and most blunt that I've heard him, even during how bad last season was, this season's been. everything else. So
Yeah.
not great. Let's go to our lessons of the game coming up next. First, today's show is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, the best place to bet all NBA season long. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started at FanDuel Sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, FanDuel is offering $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Let's check out how to get that big win right off the bat and have some fun the rest of the weekend as we head toward, of course, the big tournament coming up here. On Friday, we have Arkansas State on the road at UL Monroe. Really big matchup, huge one. Everybody's going to be watching it, of course. I'm kidding, but you can get your win there and have some fun with $150 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. Join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Ben, let's keep it rolling here.
I'm just looking at some of these quotes from Booker. I haven't been to a single presser after the game. Again, we break it up, but I wish I would have been in that one. It's just everything. It was Cam Cox released the full thing of it.
Yeah, Cam Cox's tweet has 2 siren emojis and says "must listen." So I think that's kind of where we are. But
I was even thinking at this point, I was like, man, how do I put this in here so we can play? But it's not possible at this point.
No, and it'll be a story, so we will come back to it. 'Cause that's the good thing about doing a podcast 5 times a week. But to get, I guess, a little bit, I'll let you go to maybe more of an on-court lesson of the game here.
On court. I think for me at this point, and I know I'm kind of stealing yours, which isn't fair, but I was just wrong about Bol Bol. I just was wrong. The guy is a hooper. I think a lot of it. I'm not willing to say that last year I was just completely wrong on Bol Bol because I watched him. He was fun. He was competitive. I just didn't believe in it. So this year, I think I'm just more so a believer in him and his ability to shoot the ball crisp, come out with energy.
Or you've just been broken down so much that you're looking for hope.
Well,
because last year he broke out right when they started playing well, so it was easy to be like, oh, the other stuff, and he's just there. This year it's like, can we just something good?
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things. I almost just completely switched what I saw today and went a different direction. But the Bol Bol aspect of everything has just been a revelation for this team, and it's why I continue to preach. The positivity side of it is like this team I don't think is going to go in the cellar for 10 years. You got Bol Bol, you got Devin Booker, you've got Ryan Dunn, you've got Royce O'Neal. You can trade potentially Kevin Durant and get a bunch of guys back. They're not going to go in the cellar. So there is consistent hope with some of these young guys on the team, youngish guys. I think Grayson is still a good player. Dunn, obviously. You might have hit it with big with Bol Bol and Oso still on the bench, a good depth piece. Yeah. So those type of things continue to point towards good signs. It's kind of a lame thing I learned today, but I was just wrong. Like I'm willing to just be wrong on the Bol Bol thing and take another L on that. So I'll let you get into what yours is probably definitely more interesting and more into the Bol Bol side of things, and I'm sure you got other things too.
Well, yeah, you didn't steal mine because I'm going to go the other way on both of the young bigs in the starting lineup tonight, which is that they played fine. I'm not going to try to break down their game. We're past that point in the season, frankly, where I'm going to microanalyze guys at that level necessarily unless we're having that kind of a conversation. But I think I was just noticing tonight, again, in a game where Book and KD combined for 64 points, it's kind of hard to lose. So you start to sit there and wonder, like, even on the offensive end, they still only shoot 47%. Like, 116 is good, but it's not like the Grizzlies game good. I just was really feeling tonight the step back in terms of cohesion and kind of team play when you are having to work around 2 young bigs like that. It doesn't matter that they're bigs, young players like that who their awareness and reading the game. I hate to use IQ because it makes it seem like I'm calling them idiots, but basketball IQ
different
is at such a lower level than the stars on this team, or even forget this comparing them to KD. That's crazy, but even just what most other winning teams would have. I'll just list a few. Both of them suck at setting screens. They don't make consistent contact.
Yeah.
So much of what Bud does is based on creating separation, getting that ball movement going. The defense is, running around and you're taking advantage of it. If you're not getting the first defender peeled off of the guy handling the ball, none of that works out. You have, Nick Richards, they're constantly having to bark at him. You watch on the court. They're pointing, they're talking to him. He doesn't know where to be because he can't shoot. So he has to be spacing the floor, but he's a big, so he's not really spacing the way that Porzingis would, but he's kind of just he should be reading the floor. The play that went viral, I don't know about viral, but I saw Cam Cox tweeted it, and people noticed it in real time, where KD was yelling. It was at Mason Plumlee in this case, but that kind of stuff happens all the time with Nick Richards as well, because it's just I'm trying to just cook right now, and you're just standing 4 feet away from me for absolutely no reason at all. Bol, there was a possession in the second quarter. He dribbled the air out of the ball and just jacked up a late shot. There's so many little moments like that where it really kills the rhythm. You don't notice it, but they're just very clear weak links in the offense.
I definitely think I agree with you. Maybe that's a little strong, but I definitely think myself, I notice it too. With the Bol thing, I'm not trying to backtrack here or anything. I look at it as more as this season is already lost. We talk about how things are getting more and more desperate as the day goes by, but I've kind of just started to look towards, all right, what are you going to look like next year? That's what I think with the Bol thing. A top 8 guy in the rotation is all I'm saying.
Yeah, but I think even it speaks to
they need another. They need a different kind of big.
Sure, but it also, I think that's why it drives me so crazy, and why I keep coming back when we've been talking so much Bol lately is, why did it take 40, 50, 60 games for him to get minutes? Because those are the types of things where coming into the year I was like, finally, he's going to get an opportunity to play 82 games with a real rotation. He's not going to have to worry and look over his shoulder every time he's on the court about making mistakes, or he does one wrong thing, he's getting pulled. He proved he could do it last year. This year is going to be the year where he can just relax and get better and play real minutes, and then he didn't get that opportunity again. And now we're back to saying, well, he's not so confident and the IQ's still coming along. He looks uncomfortable out. Well, he didn't have to be that way.
That is we talked about this the other day. It's the one thing that I can't defend Budenholzer on. There's a lot of things with this team that I have defended Budenholzer on because this is the third coach, a guy who's won a championship, but I'm not saying he's a bad evaluator of talent. And I saw Espo, a friend of ours of the channel, mention this as well. Other teams have dealt with Bol the same way. I'm well, it's 2 years now with Bol. It's definitely the best version of Bol we've ever gotten. You need to be able to see that guy as a core piece of this team. To you watch him every day at practice. I don't. It's the reason why I didn't believe in Bol for a long time, and now I believe him as a top 8, top 9 guy of the rotation. Like you had kind of mentioned, 20 minutes a night kind of guy. Those kind of builds aren't built for 30 minutes a night. It's how they get injured. So that's kind of the stuff with Bol. But, it's clear, man. One of the things that I don't like to take a victory lap on these things, and I'm sure you were here as well, is Nick Richards was always a spare tire. He was always better than the flat tire that was Nurkic and Mason Plumlee, but going and plucking a guy from one of the worst teams in the NBA, and he was the second string big. Now he's better than what they have, but expectations were always overinflated, which is one of the things I had mentioned where I was he's not gonna be a game changer.
And even and some of that was, it's not even about talent. I think Nick Richards maybe in 2 years could be a bona fide starting caliber center. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. But even aside from the fact that he's young or just, maybe not have the elite skill set, he's also never played a meaningful minute of basketball in his entire professional career, because
it's different.
Even when they were healthy in Charlotte, his job was go run and jump toward the hoop and LaMelo might throw you a lob. I know I'm reducing it down, but they sucked on defense. Their offense is the LaMelo show, and there wasn't a lot of sophisticated reading he was really having to do out there, whereas now he's playing in a whole different offense. He's playing with superstars. Ideally, they're trying to actually win games and buckle down. That's not happening, of course, and that's just a learning curve that is going to be a lot for a dude to come in and have to adjust to mid-season. So you just see it. Again, that's why I started with, I'm not bashing these guys. They both had double-doubles, I think, or at least Richards did, and Bol had double digits. It's just some of that stuff that you just wish wouldn't have been happening in game 55, 60.
It's just deficiencies that on this team that, like, you and I would both agree, especially now what I was clearly wrong on in Bowl is they're going to be fine for this team, but they've got to make some changes in the front court. And whatever that looks like, I don't know. You and I discussed yesterday. Maybe you move Durant to the Mavs and you get Derek Lively, and you get a PJ Washington. Like, that changes everything for this team schematically wise. And so it's frustrating, man. I'm with you. I didn't want to have this talk 50 plus games in the season, but it has went so full scale backwards that I want to scream at this team. But one, these microphones can't handle that, and two, trust me, I'll get another chance to scream with them. Potentially tomorrow. Actually, probably tomorrow. How do you force, this is a box score thing and a good last segment, but
well, let's do it. Let's wait.
Okay, go for it. Go for it. There's one thing in there that pisses me off.
We'll get to the closeout. Ben's going to do a magic number. I will do something as far as a Footprint Center report. Crap.
Oh,
again,
can't wait.
Not called the Footprint Center report. The Phoenix Suns Arena report. We'll get there next.
I think we should just call it Footprint Center. I think we should just do it.
All right, we're back. Okay, give us your magic number, and then I'll close us out.
Yeah, so really quickly, one of the things that I thought was very frustrating tonight was, do you know how many turnovers the New Orleans Pelicans had tonight?
Well, I'm looking, so I do now.
6 turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, there is no chance in this world that the Pelicans at all, on paper, on the court, maybe schematically, that are better than the Suns, or should be more offensively sound than the Suns. If both teams had 10 turnovers, what are you going to do, right? That's an effort thing, man. How are you not forcing more than 6 turnovers on a team that doesn't have a point guard? They're not rushing. They are the Suns from last year in a much smaller sense, that they're not running a point guard out there to start games.
Zion,
Trey Murphy. Yeah, exactly. Trey Murphy's their point guard, or Zion, CJ McCollum as well. They don't have the true guy that they're doing it.
Yeah.
But yet, with Murphy and Williamson and McCollum, and if Beal played in this game, but even if you lined up the Suns' 3 best players, if you lined up the top 5 players in this game, the Suns have the top 2.
Well, I mean, this is what we talked about.
Can't do that, man. It's just effort. It's effort.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
you get your hands in passing lanes.
I think it's all connected. We've talked about it 100 times, but what I was going to say was going to be about something different than effort, which is, we talked about it last week when I kind of had that thing on the docket of a different angle on the turnovers, and I pointed out how horrible the Suns are at forcing them.
Yeah.
That's been a problem all season. That's the thing, that they're terrible on defense, but they're worst of anything that they do on defense. That's their thing that they struggle with the most. And I think it is effort, of course. They could probably improve if they just were more sound and all the stuff we go back and forth on every night, but the athleticism and physicality is just not there. And it's just so glaring when you see that the best teams in the NBA all force turnovers. The Rockets, the Grizzlies, the Thunder, whatever. The teams that are succeeding with the modern style right now, that's a must-have. And so that is a glaring weakness that the Suns need to figure out what they're going to do about going forward, because even if and that's actually the magic number I was going to have if you didn't have one, which is that they only had 10. And that's basically been for this whole week, they basically haven't struggled with turnovers. Mm-hmm. We just kind of assume that they're going to. I don't know if people are realizing that, but they haven't had high turnover numbers.
Without a point guard, by the way.
Well, tonight, Tyus obviously helped out.
Tyus did play.
12 assists to 0 turnovers.
Sorry, I forgot that Bradley Beal's calf
needed his rest.
Yeah, he needed his rest. It's 5. God, man. Anyways, sorry, I cut you off.
But it's just, even if they clean that up, if they're not forcing any, they're still going to lose the turnover battle every night. They could only turn it over 8 times, but if they're only forcing 6, they're still losing. So it's a real problem, and the league, it's one of many ways that the league just absolutely passed this type of roster construction by. We didn't even know how much that was going to accelerate, but all the best teams are doing that, and the Suns are just getting left in the dust, literally.
Let's we've harped a lot on all of it, and I really like your Footprint Center report that I'm just going to call the Footprint Center report. Or you can pick the United Wholesale Mortgage report or the Footprint Center report. I'll let you pick.
I don't have.
Did you see Ishbia here tonight?
That's where I was going to go, because I don't
pissed.
have a great one, because there wasn't anything cool or fun in this case. I was just going to say, on one like somewhat positive note, Ryan Dunn's whole family was here tonight, so that's kind of cool. They got to see him play his 7 minutes and get benched or whatever.
Well, I also never thought that he could have as many points as his jersey number, but that's what it is.
14 minutes, actually. Sorry, Ryan. Yeah, he was not good tonight, so I don't know, but still cool, you know. I don't know where he's actually originally from. Obviously went to Virginia, but I don't know where where home is. But that was cool, and that brings us to Mat Ishbia, who went and said hello to all those lovely Duns, and then sat courtside. No kids, and no anybody that I recognized around him this time. I was just sitting there. Yeah, he didn't look pleased, but that good, right? But I was sitting there thinking, did he and Katie talk? What is that conversation like? You know, is it just?
I would think, talked about what? Because I think they've talked since the deadline. Of course.
Have they cleared the air about what happened at the deadline?
Oh, hell no. It's and this is not a bad thing. You can use it as motivation. This is how Kevin Durant rolls. So I just want to. You're not clear. I think once you cross Kevin Durant, it's going to take. It took years for him and Draymond to be boys again.
I mean, he went back to the Nets.
KD did? Well, he's under contract.
Well, no. I mean, I know. I'm not saying he signed a new contract. I'm saying he demanded a trade.
Technically, he did sign a new contract, too.
They met. He played a whole season. He asked for Steve Nash to be fired, and he went back and played for Steve Nash. So I think it can be. That's why I was at least maybe naively kind of thinking there was a tiny chance that it could be salvaged. Obviously, people like Brian Windhorst think not.
I think
but
it's done.
You don't think that they've discussed it at all?
I think they've discussed the trade deadline, and
you just don't think it went well?
I think it went with, hey, Katie, this is what happened. It's like when you're pissed off at your boss and they want to talk to you about something and you just nod your head and go, yep, sounds good. All right, I apologize. Yeah. And then you walk out. I think it went like that. And that is not something that I would blame Kevin Durant for. At this point, the season's a lost cause. And Katie's...
and he didn't do anything.
No, he didn't. I mean, it's not on Katie.
So he has every right to. If somebody tried to fire me, I mean, I can't get traded in my job. So if somebody tried to change up my stuff and then they wanted to, have a beer, I'd be like, get lost.
No, yeah, get lost.
What are we doing?
Yeah,
here?
Well, Ishbia, on his way out, because I was standing on the the tunnel, ready to walk onto the court after the game, he dapped up Willie Green and walked away, and he looked pissed off. And, it's just even funnier because Ishbia is shorter than I always think of. He's like 5'6". He's just grumpy walking away, and I feel for the guy.
I don't feel for him one iota. I want him to feel every bit of how frustrating this is, because it is almost entirely his fault. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay. Well, we can debate that another day.
Whoever has made mistakes along the way, I'm not trying to, of course, not.
You said it's almost entirely his fault.
2 years worth of action is only one person's issue. But if you want to take full control over everything, you get full ownership of the consequences of it. So I'm sure he's mad at himself. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he's not, but I'm saying he should be. Whatever he's feeling,
I think he plays
good. That's how I would put it.
I think he plays a blame in all of this for sure, but I don't think it's entirely on Mat Ishbia.
Well, that's cool, because I'd love to have a job where I can blow through everybody else in my path and then just get what's your percentage? 60% of the blame? That sounds awesome.
Well,
go screw something up royally and have it all be because of decisions that I made, and then go, well, I only did half of the problem.
My quick 60-second, God, I love when we bicker. But my quick 60-second fight about this that I will put up is, this team is talented, and it's got guys on this team that can play, and they have not only fallen short of expectations. By the time it's over, they will have 0 playoff wins and 1 playoff appearance. Likely is what this is trending towards.
Yeah.
That's as much a player issue as it is an ownership issue, and I will continue to fight that battle. I don't think anyone's done any. I think if we're just 33.5% for everyone. I think the players.
Yeah, you're being more nuanced than me, and you're right. You're right. Obviously,
I don't think
getting swept by the Timberwolves is not directly Mat Ishbia's fault. Like, of course, not being competitive at all.
I think it's the first time you've ever said I was right.
I don't think that's true, but you were wrong about Bol Bol, I'll tell you that.
I was wrong about Bol Bol.
That one, there's no
I was
argument.
right about Nick Richards, that he's not going to be the savior of this team, and temper your expectations. And I was right that we should have kept the Twins. I'm just kidding. That's just something that people will say. I've seen like the media's so in love with the Twins.
Yeah.
I was like,
no, that one's hilarious.
Just so
I haven't
clear,
said either of their names on
No.
this podcast, and I would say probably over 2 years.
Just
at
so
this
we're
point.
clear, I would like right now. I would still trade them for Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
I would still do it.
I mean, ask
would still
the
do it.
Knicks how it's going.
It's going
with one
horribly.
Of them.
They gave up 5 first-round
Yeah,
picks.
it's
for him.
goofy, so whatever. But all right, that'll wrap us up. Hit follow, subscribe if you haven't already. We will be talking about whatever just happened with Devin Booker, I'm sure, for the coming days. We also have another game coming up on Sunday night here at Phoenix Suns Arena against Minnesota Timberwolves. Another home game after that on Tuesday. So lots going on, even though the results aren't what we want.
And is Anthony Edwards going to crotch chop himself in the middle of the Suns Arena on Sunday? Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Enjoy the weekend. Don't think about the Suns. We'll catch you next time.